I've got the floor, so I'm going to keep it. So I'm going to hand over to back over to Carla Parker again, who looking forward to a really interesting session with Tim Campbell. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Carla.
Great, thank you, Nick. So good afternoon, everyone. I hope everybody's enjoying the day so far. I'm delighted now to welcome Tim Campbell, MBE. He's a business owner, author and founder of the highly successful Bright Ideas Trust Enterprise Charity. And of course, Tim was the first winner of the BBC programme, The Apprentice. So Tim, are you there?
I am here. I don't know if you can hear me, but I can't.
We can hear you.
Okay, good, that's good. But my camera is saying that I need to be unlocked or something. So I don't know if there's something you can do at your end between you and Nick to unlock my camera because it's on, but I can't see you.
Can we do anything, Nick?
Pip, can you pick that up? Pip, are you there?
Pip's hiding.
He's on mute at the moment. I think we've... Oh, there he's back again.
Apologies. Just gone for a well-deserved break. I'm Jade. Help you for a moment.
Always happens. Always happens.
So you should be able to click on your video button and located in the bottom left corner of your screen.
And I've clicked on it. Yeah, I'm clicking, and it's just not. It's got the red line through it. That's all. It's not allowing me to do anything else. I can do the mute button, but I can't do anything with regards to the video.
Right, bear with me 1 second, and I will sort that out for you.
Fantastic.
Leave that with you, Jade, and we just go with audio for now, and then we'll pick up the video, and we'll see Tim in due course.
Nick, it might be a better thing that they can't see me. Don't worry, so everyone will be really happy.
I've seen your photos, mate. I've seen your photos already. We definitely want to see you.
So thank you for the invite, Carla. So how are you?
I'm really well, thank you, Tim. I'm delighted that you're with us. How are you?
Yeah, really good, actually. Apart from the rain that's in London, it's bearable. It's bearable.
Good. So talk to me. What we're going to talk about today?
So I think for me, it was really interesting to be able to talk to the audience around how we can have a conversation around what leadership is within organizations, because I think there's a huge conversation around inclusion and diversity in the workforce, which is really, really important. And I think given the power and breadth and reach of the NHS, that has to be something that's at the heart of the conversation around how we attract and retain the talent from as many different places as possible. But all too often when we're having conversations around inclusion and diversity, sometimes we fall into the position where we are expecting the individuals to make the change. There's a huge amount of pressure on people to make the change. And lovely Jade, I can see you trying to get my video on. I'm pressing the start, but it's not starting for some reason, but we'll keep going. And there's a huge amount of pressure on individuals to come up with the change that they need to see or they want to see. And the difficulty for me is that all too often we need leaders to take the lead, pun intended, to lead the charge on exactly what we see as the outcomes within our organizations. Because all too often, the individuals are asked to come up with great solutions and ideas of what they would like to see and how that would work. But actually, the power is in leaders taking that charge and making sure that they can make the pathway as straightforward for their people as possible. We've got to remember, my mum, my mother-in-law, my sister, all are long-serving members. My mother-in-law have retired, obviously, of the NHS. And for me, I'm incredibly proud of the lives that they've been able to build up as a result of working within the communities that they served. My mother-in-law was a site practitioner by the time she left. And essentially, she was then able to have her own business, attract money, do all the different things that she was necessary. But she often came back and told stories to my now wife of when patients would be saying, don't touch me because you're black, find me a white nurse, or worse still, leaders within the organizations not supporting her when she found out other members of staff were being discriminatory about what she was going through. Now, for me, at a time when we want to attract as much talent and professionalism to our organizations as possible, and also when we've had the great country support of people clapping on a Thursday evening, supporting everyone else, how disheartening is it for individuals to then go into work and feel they're not supported by their organisations or their leaders in terms of taking that one forward? So what I'd love the leaders within businesses to be able to do is, first and foremost, is really listen. So I think it's incredibly powerful, the conversations that we're having now, because for me, it's very important that we are able to have open and clear discourse about exactly what's happening within our institutions. And that inclusion conversation needs to be as broad as possible. And whether that's about how do we get senior leadership, and it was great watching Jill before, into as many different positions as possible. How do we make sure that we are talking around sexuality and people being able to bring their whole selves to work, as we've seen from our LGBT plus colleagues? And then how do we make sure that we've got an institution that seems really powerfully able to attract talent at the entrance levels of our organization, but what's happening around ascending them to positions of power throughout our business? And for me, that's where leaders have to step forward and really make the difference and make the change for those individuals within there, that they can feel trusted, that their leadership is going to really bang the drum for them.
Yes, I mean, I agree there, Tim. I think it's interesting. I don't know, you've probably seen that. So NHS England, NHS Improvement, the Chief Executive, Simon Stevens, has talked about increasing the representation of Black and ethnic minority staff across all Agenda for Change categories and
Yes.
bandings in our own organisation. And it's certainly something that we're looking at and thinking about, well, how do we actually make our organisation inclusive, you know, in our own organisation as well as the wider NHS. I mean, so thinking about some of the organisations that you have worked with, are there things that they've, you know, what has the approach been in terms of trying to be inclusive and attract and retain that talent?
Well, I think working in lots of private and public sector institutions, because you've got to remember, I grew up and earned my stripes, as it were, in the public sector. I worked for Transport for London for over 10 years. So I'm very acknowledging of the hierarchical nature of structures and how difficult that can be to navigate sometimes. But working in the private and public sector, I think we now, in the new normal that we now talk about, we have to be very clear that we are going to hold boards and leadership to account to really prove that the adage that the people are the greatest asset is actually really true. We heard beforehand the amount of money that's been spent on processes and systems and technology. But the bit that really stuck for me from Jill was that people need to do or go above and beyond what they're paid to do. And this is the bit where I see real power, because in no one's job description is it written that you should be inclusive. Nowhere's job description is it that you should be attracting talent from the best places, etc. It just doesn't feature. But what is implied in lots of our job descriptions is that we are going to do the best for the organization that we work for. And I think what we are seeing from leaders who are making fundamental differences in their organizations is that they are role modeling that behavior by first making sure that they are aware and have listened to all of the people within their business and their business units and understand what some of the challenges are. Because all too often I hear some of the feedback from individuals around how they raise concerns and they get often swept under the carpet, and people don't see actually any fundamental difference when they actually raise concerns, so therefore don't feel confident to be able to do that. So for me, it's around leaders owning those conversations, acknowledging there is work to be done, and then identifying on an even-handed basis where actual change can be made. And that can be sometimes really difficult in the fast-paced environment of NHS businesses and trusts. That can be really difficult because it is quite structured, it is quite hierarchical. The process of development and acknowledgement is quite regimented. However, having worked with the armed forces and the military in previous guides, there is huge amounts of change that can be done if we empower people to come up with creative solutions. Now, I would be starting at the point of what's our goal, where we're trying to get to, what's the position that we want everybody to move towards, and then working backwards from that around how we can overlay a number of different things, be that a talent strategy, be that a series of training and interventions that have to happen, or it may be something as more drastic as going outside of the NHS and learning from other institutions about what they're doing that aren't in similar industries but have great ways of working. So, for example, looking at the work of the likes of a Facebook, and although you may not have many beanbags around in NHS departments or have multicolored signs everywhere, you do have a heavy reliance on the brilliance of your people who go above and beyond what is in their job descriptions to delight the people that they work with. So for me, there's very similar, because at the end of the day, as a customer facing institution, it's all about delighting that customer. And what I've seen from the likes of the Facebooks and other technology companies, which have attracted a huge amount of revenue and attention, is that they are very clear about acknowledging what they got wrong, as well as showing off about what they got right. And for me, that's the bit that is really, really important for individuals to be aware of in that leadership position. People aren't looking for perfect solutions. What they are looking for is a level of authenticity, so that when they are in the position of leadership, they are able to say to the people that they're working with, listen, we may not get everything right. We may make mistakes along the way, but that's okay, because actually we're going to learn from those. We're going to listen to the people on the ground, and we're actually going to make fundamental differences based on that change. Where I think people get very disillusioned is where they raise concerns, they have issues that they bring to the table, and unfortunately they don't get picked up, or people believe that they're not listened to. That for me is where there is a huge risk, because then when people start signing out, they do the bare minimum. They don't want to go above and beyond for the brand that they serve, and essentially that's where issues can come in: engagement, motivation, and most importantly for me, from a leadership position, retention. Because huge amounts of money and resources have gone into attracting new talent. We understand the gaps. We see the need that we have. We want to get more young people thinking about this as a career for life in terms of what they can do. One of the very few that are left. What a great banner that would be. But essentially, it's all well and good getting people to come into an institution. It's much harder to make sure that they stay, and they stay for the right reasons.
Yeah, you're spot on there, Tim. And I think your points around listening are just for me personally resonate really deeply in that. I think, so there's lots of good intention, and I think people don't genuinely want to be malicious and hurtful towards others. But some of the work that I lead around ED&I, it's really kind of, the outputs are how people feel, and that's much harder to sometimes measure and to quantify. But actually, you see the outcome of those actions in a different way, because it's about people's motivation and staying. And their desire to continue to progress in their career in that organisation, and to contribute, like, actively as a whole person, all of their goods and bad parts, so I think for me that's really poignant. I think the other bit that you mentioned that really resonated also was that acknowledging that we don't have all the answers, that we might get things wrong, but I think that we should also remember to kind of celebrate and share the things that we do well. And that's why, the Fab Change website is such a good place to do that, because that's, we're encouraging people across the NHS to share the things that they're doing that is making a difference to the organisations they work in. And we need to celebrate and share that much more, because actually we don't have to always reinvent the wheel, but sometimes you just do. And you have to mold it and change it, because an 18-inch rim isn't the same as a 20-inch rim. So you just need to kind of remember that you do have to utilize the ideas that people are generating and share them and try them. I think we have to be scared we mustn't be scared to try new things and to open those conversations to allow people to come forward.
100%. I think what I have worked with a number of chief execs, senior C-suite individuals, and also those who act in NED positions. What they sometimes are afraid of is causing more harm, which obviously would resonate with you and the oaths that you have within the NHS, because it's exactly the opposite in terms of what you want to be able to do, in terms of cause no harm at all and actually make individuals better. But that shouldn't just be about a client technician relationship. That should be about a manager to subordinate relationship. That should be about a colleague to colleague relationship. I think it's really important that the focus around the D in the D&I is not seen as a point or destination of success. It should actually be a focus around the I, which is a continual conversation, which means a continual check-in to see where we are, what we're doing, what's working, what's not working. And it's that iterative process which actually brings that diversity of thought, which is actually what we're all looking for, which allows us to spot the challenges, come up with the adequate solutions, and move forward together as a unit. Because whether you're looking at football or you're looking at FTSE 100 companies, the beauty of organizations and teams coming together is when they all gel and they realize that they're all fighting for the same cause. So whether it's like with Haringey Women's Football Club, who I go down and see every Sunday when I can and support, and if you're out there, come and support us as well. Or it's out there, you're working with the likes of some of the technology giants that I get to work with. All of those brands have a clear focus around, this is our company, this is our brand that we support, and we're going to protect it. And what we want everybody to do within the NHS is be proud of that brand, but make sure that the leaders in that organization are the ones that people can also look up to and say, do you know what? I know that manager, I know that director, I know that head of a trust is going to have my back in a situation because I see them living that example every single day. It's not just about the words on a website or the statements of intent. It's much more around the actions and also the things that people are going to say about those leaders when they're not in the room.
Yeah, that's like the perfect definition of leadership, really, isn't it? It's about when you're not there, and how people behave and how they act. We've only got a few minutes left, Tim, but I was really interested in something you talked about recently, which was to do with the impact of mental health, yes, of racism on mental health. So would you like to just talk to us a little bit about that before we have to move over?
Yeah, not a problem. So I know we've only got a couple of minutes left. So thank you, Lucy, for giving us the nudge, because I can talk for England, as Carla can testify. But I suppose for the people on the call, I remember hearing Sir John Brown. Sir John Brown was at the top of BP, a professional leader in his own right, heralded by lots of people from within business as a captain of industry. I remember hearing him speak one day, and he said, do you know what? I had to hide my whole career the fact that I was homosexual, and I had to even make up stories and lies around partners that I had, etc. And he said the physical drain on my psyche of every day having to think about how I answered a question, how I dressed in the morning, how I went out on events, who I socialized with, was completely taxing on his mental health. And he said he held it together for a number of years, but got to the point where he became incredibly depressed, incredibly low. And when he got found out, for the want of a better expression, by the media, that he had a male partner, he was actually very relieved that he could actually be his true self. And for me, looking at somebody being that honest, it really brought home how powerful it is to allow and facilitate in our organizations conversations about things that disturb people. And the power and drain of an ism, whether that be sexism, treating people differently because of their sexuality or because of racism, we have to understand that this is something that individuals carry around for a long time. I remember growing up and my mum telling me, Tim, when you go to work, you're gonna have to work twice as hard as your white counterparts. And please, all the white people on the phone, don't jump off. It's not an attack against anybody, right? But it's actually an articulation of what I experienced. And that put me in a frame of mind where I had to be very confrontational, where I felt I had to challenge and battle against everybody. And the drain on my energy as a result of that was I was always looking for something that was going to trip me up or put me in a bad situation. And in addition to that, speaking to my wife, having to think every morning, not just about what dress she wore or how short the dress was, in terms of was it above the knee or below the knee? Was she going to get judged because her blouse was a certain length or had one too many buttons? But also having to think about how she had her hair, or how her hair was positioned in that particular time, what she would have to talk about. So I think what we have to get people to realize is that for every single one of us, and I support Time to Talk and the wellness campaign around, is that everybody's carrying a story that you might not know about. And it's really important to be kind and reticent around that, because your actions could actually be the tipping point for somebody either thinking, do you know what, this is the welcome place for me to be, or the tipping point for me to say, do you know what, this is the place I need to leave. So be really aware that our interactions with people on all of the personal characteristics are really, really important. And like what unconscious bias may focus on, I want us to focus on the conscious things that we carry around with us, and make sure, whether it's we judging people on what music they listen to, or what food they eat, or what club they go to, or what sports they partake in, we just have to be really aware of the conscious biases that we carry around, and making sure that we're being as kind to everybody, because this is us in one team as one NHS trying to make a difference for our customers who may need us as much to be in the best mental health position as possible. And we don't want to have to fight people who are wearing the same badges as us, let alone the customers who walk in the door.
Yeah, 100%, Tim. And I really love your stories there in terms of your own experience as well, and the person from BP. Tim, it's been a pleasure as always to talk to you, and I'm so grateful for your time. And thank you so much. I'm sure we'll be sharing the link soon, and I know we'll speak again very soon.
Definitely. Apologies about the video. I'm not sure what happened there, but maybe it's better that everybody didn't see my mug on the screen.
Thanks a lot, Tim. Take care.
Have a great day. Thanks, Carla.
Thanks a lot. Over to you, Pete.